Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 226 based on novel. So let's start. The resource most suitable for the Infinite Great Snake Clan is the source world origin. The Infinite Snake ancestor itself has long been undying and undying. For the needs of the clan, it also cannot agree. Hand over all the source worlds in our territory to you. You're purely delusional. The Infinite Snake ancestor's eyes were cold. This condition has no room for negotiation. All source world creatures are our kin. Our cultivator camp has strived for generations and will definitely take them all back. We cannot tolerate the source world creatures serving as food for you forever. Yuan said coldly. The Infinite Snake ancestor sneered, "Want all the source worlds? Then there'll be a full-scale war. By then, numerous source worlds in your cultivator territory will also be swept into the war." The numerous ancestors and 8 lords radiated murderous intent. Full-scale war? Our lords don't care. Yuan said indifferently, "The lords are undying and undying, let's see how many of your ancestors will fall in battle." Haha, our innate primordial camp does indeed need enough blood and fire. The silent extinction ancestor spoke, "Only blood and fire can make the life core grow and birth more undying and undying. Full-scale war, who would be afraid?" The infinite ancestor also sneered. The ancestors who reach the level of undying and undying, don't care. Those ancestors very close to undying and undying, like the silent extinction ancestor, eagerly anticipate advancing further. A sufficiently brutal war is beneficial to their evolution. As for the fate of the lower ranks, they care for the continuation of the clan, and during this process, the elimination through wars doesn't concern them. The innate primordial camp has been the first major camp in the endless primordial space for too long. Luo Feng spoke, "It's time for the first major camp to change." Possessing the power to control the destruction world, Luo Feng can conduct periodic cleanups, gaining favor from the abyss of destruction. Luo Feng is prepared for a great massacre. To command all source worlds, if negotiation fails, then war is the only option. One side has 8 undying and undying lords. The other has 5 undying and undying ancestors and over 100 ancestors of varying strengths. Should full-scale war erupt, the casualties are destined to be severe. An ancestor like the silent extinction ancestor, nearing a breakthrough, instead yearns for this brutal war. Is all you want just the source worlds? The giant god emperor suddenly spoke, causing the infinite snake ancestor and silent extinction ancestor to glare at it angrily. Yes. Yuan nodded. "You should also know, resources for life core evolution aren't important to us cultivator lords. We only care for the source worlds, and apart from the source worlds, there's countless other resources in the vast territory, all of which can belong to you. But of course, we will continue to fairly compete for the mysterious land. The mysterious land, where all parties have always assumed fair competition. Refining and mastery depend entirely on individual ability. You promise never to invade our innate primordial camp's territory again for endless ages." The giant god emperor continued. "We 8 lords will promise all ancestors never to expand. Yuan stated. The giant god emperor understood. It turned to its companions and said, 8 cultivator lords collectively promise never to expand again. Only need to give them all source worlds. I think source worlds aren't that important to us. Source worlds are very important to us." The infinite snake ancestor stared at the giant god emperor. "Our giant god race doesn't care." The giant god emperor looked at it. "Your infinite great snake clan certainly cares a lot, but, for the long ages, the strength of other ancestors has hardly improved. Infinite snake ancestor, I think you rely too heavily on the source worlds. Thoroughly abandoning the source worlds is also a tempering for your infinite great snake clan. Your giant god race doesn't need them, can abandon them." The infinite snake ancestor shook its head, "But this condition, our infinite great snake clan can never agree to. The infinite great snake clan, the proportion of world-level beings becoming ancestors, far exceeds other clans because of absorbing the source world origin. Once abandoned, the subsequent emergence of ancestors for the infinite Great Snake clan will quickly become extremely difficult. Many clans do not particularly need the source worlds. The giant god emperor looked behind. I believe among the 86 ancestors here, many ancestors don't care about the source world origin. Many ancestors felt somewhat tempted. Previously, they thought the cultivator camp was occupying the southern river territory and was still unsatisfied, still wanting to expand. For their territory necessary for survival and reproduction, these ancestors were united against the cultivator camp at any cost. But now, the 8 lords promise never to expand. This isn't an individual lord's promise, nor a private promise. But 8 lords, a public promise to all ancestors. Considering that the cultivator lords also lack life cores, the promise's credibility is quite high. Never expand? Then why fight? As for the source worlds, for their clan's reproduction and growth, it's merely a resource enhancing what's already favorable. Missing the source world doesn't make much difference. What the giant god emperor said also makes sense. The initial ancestor suddenly spoke, having been silent. Your infinite Great Snake clan has always relied on the source world origin. Perhaps breaking off from the source world origin is another tempering for life core evolution. The infinite snake ancestor realized the internal division. Even among the 9 emperors. The giant god emperor, primordial beast ancestor, and black tide ancestor stood together. Initial ancestor and mother of spacetime leaned slightly neutral. Friend infinite ancestor, since becoming undying and undying, alone without a clan, no longer cooperated as it once did. Are we facing the cultivator camp to retreat like this? The silent extinction ancestor spoke. We don't need source world origin, why fight to the death over source worlds? Yes, the cultivator camp never expands, why fight against them? The ancestors communicated with each other. Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 54 based on novel. So let's start. Helpless, Xu Lixi greeted Tang Wulin. Yi Xinglan glared at Tang Wulin, as if her gaze could burn him alive. Tang Wulin ignored her, treating her as air. Let's go. At his actions, Xie moved to whisper into his ear. Why do I get the feeling that there's some deep grudge between you two? Tang Wulin shrugged in response. No way. We're just acquaintances. Gu approached them after seeing the current situation. Unlike Tang Wulin, she wasn't as tactful and stared at Yi Xinglan with indifference, her words as cold and piercing as ice. Just wait and see. A disdainful snort left Yi Xinglan's mouth. We're registered too. Let me see just what it is you have to show. They also signed up? But aren't they from Shrek Academy? Can Shrek Academy even participate in a public tournament like this? Tang Wulin stared at them, incredulity painting his face. Yi Xinglan said pridefully, we'll just join another academy temporarily before the match. No one will say anything if we do that. Tang Wulin, you just wait. You better pray that you're defeated before you meet me. If not. HMPH. As she spoke, she raised her fist to Tang Wulin in a menacing way. She glared at him with malicious eyes. The atmosphere grew heavy and tense. He had no choice but to be cautious of Yi Xinglan now. After all, she came from Shrek Academy. Everyone had watched their exhibition match. Though how they won was still unclear, the strength of Shrek Academy was not. If such a powerful opponent appeared because of his provocation, he would have wronged his teammates. Tang Wulin wanted to speak out, but Gu stopped him. All right. We'll see then. Captain, let's go. Gu pulled Tang Wulin away, not giving him the chance to resolve anything. On the road back to the hotel, Tang Wulin recounted the events that nurtured hostility between him and Yi Xinglan. Captain, you're so cool, Xu Xiaoyan said, bright-eyed. They are from Shrek Academy yet you still ran out on them. You're too awesome. Not bending to power and unshaken by poverty, you're a true role model. Xie's mouth twitched. What do you mean, not bending to power? He just hates spending money. Tang Wulin shot him a look. That's right. It's exactly like that. At this confession, Xie stopped ridiculing Tang Wulin in an instant. Gu exclaimed, "That's how he really is." Xie stumbled over his own 2 feet. Damn it, Gu, can't you be a little less biased? Is everything he does just to you? Of course. Gu stated it as if it was fact. Fury rose within Xie, bubbling like lava from a volcano. So you want to marry him when you grow up, then? Are you just planning ahead? Gu was taken aback. For a moment, she shot Tang Wulin a gloomy gaze, then rushed back to the hotel. Xie was flabbergasted. Until now, he had not won a single verbal duel against Gu. Now that he came out victorious, uneasiness crept into his heart as he watched Gu storm off. Did I say something wrong? What's up with her? Xie asked in confusion. Tang Wulin said unhappily, "Don't speak about so much nonsense. What do you understand about marriage at your age?" For the rest of the trip back, Gu did not utter a single word, leading them from the distance. Nonetheless, Tang Wulin was in a good mood. Since they won the team match, he would advance to the second round for all 3 of the competitions he entered. Such an achievement was worthy of rejoicing. He was not one bit nervous about the blacksmith's competition. However, he was starting to understand where he stood among his peers regarding the individual and team events. Despite lacking in soul power and soul rings from their age, their true combat strength wasn't as weak as others believed. As such, Tang Wulin could guess the Shrek Academy students' true strength. Their might did not come only from possessing a high cultivation base, but from the sum of their parts. Regardless of their combat experience, coordination, or martial soul, those elements were all first-rate. It was impossible to have a higher soul power at their age. Shortly after Tang Wulin returned to his room, he heard someone pounding on his door. "Senior disciple sister, please don't be so loud." Tang Wulin already knew who it was, only Mu Shi could be so aggressive when knocking on someone's door. "Open up already. You brat, are you looking to get into the limelight?" Mu Shi charged in once the door opened. "What did I do?" Tang Wulin eyed the energetic Mu Shi, his face dyed in doubt. "Don't you know you broke a record? It was the record for the fastest high-grade 100 refinements in the history of the Sky-Sea Alliance tournament. You broke a record." Mu Shi hissed the last few words through gritted teeth. "Huh?" Tang Wulin stood there stupefied. "I was just in a hurry to get to the individual competition." "I?" Mu Shi eyed him up and down. "Did you know that after you left, a flock of people were running all over the gym searching desperately for you? I didn't dare to say anything. All I heard was that you broke the record for high-grade 100 refinements, and with blue coppertite at that. You only used 1 minute and 6 seconds. Way to go." I didn't mean to." Tang Wulin had been repeatedly warned to stay low-key beforehand, yet no one had thought something like this would happen. His self-control was blown away the moment he began forging. In that state of mind, he focused on creating the best product he that could. Mu Shi snorted. "Well, anyway, you're in the limelight now. I expect that everyone will be focusing on you in the next round. You better prepare yourself." "Eh? What am I going to do?" Tang Wulin was at a loss. Mu Shi said, "What will be, will be. Just don't let it affect you. It's not like East Sea City is forbidden from producing geniuses, right?" Tang Wulin stared at her in astonishment. "Senior disciple sister, you saying I'm a genius?" Mu Shi raised a brow in surprise, then proceeded to pinch his cheeks. She kept pinching his cheeks as she gnashed her teeth. "Yeah. That's right. You're a genius." Tang Wulin was barely coherent as he spoke. "Senior disciple sister, please don't pinch me when you can just talk. You should go now." With great difficulty, Tang Wulin managed to fend off Mu Shi's demonic fingers from his cheeks and saw her out. Despite his aching face, his heart warmed. Perceptive since childhood, He knew that Mu Shi's bared fangs was to remind him not to draw the world's attention. Since they've noticed my forging, I'll need to think of some plan. As the first day of the tournament came to an end, some rejoiced while others sulked. For those who failed, this was the pain of being eliminated. For those who passed, it was the anxiety for what's to come. The tournament schedule was packed, with matches conducted every day. Tang Wulin would have to wake up early in order to attend the second round of the blacksmithing competition. This was an exceptionally important round. The blacksmithing tournament's champion would be decided by the sum of their marks awarded by the judges. Thus, the performance was additive. Without a doubt, Tang Wulin was the first round's front-runner, having produced a high-grade 100 refined product in the shortest amount of time. The second round was a free-forge round where participants would pick a metal and forge it to the best of their ability. For the junior division, anyone who succeeded in 100 refining a metal was considered talented. Now, if they could succeed in the 1,000 refinements, then they would be heralded as geniuses. After a whole night's meditation, Tang Wulin came up with a plan. The next morning, a horde of blacksmiths assembled. They were heading toward the competition grounds. Tang Wulin trailed behind the group, whispering quietly to Mu Shi, senior disciple sister, "Do you believe in me?" "I don't," Mu Shi retorted without missing a beat. Tang Wulin was stunned, a bitter laugh escaping from his lips. "Can't you be a bit more pleasant? Do you really not believe in me?" Mu Shi smiled inwardly at the sight of Tang Wulin deflating, but outwardly, she snorted. "Why should I believe in you? What do you have for me to believe in?" "Integrity," Tang Wulin exclaimed. "You have that? How many kilograms?" Mu Shi said disdainfully. Tang Wulin was helpless to her words. "Fine. If you don't believe in me, then you don't." Suspicion roused in Mu Shi's heart. "Just tell me what you have to say already. Out with it." Tang Wulin smirked. "If you believe in me, then choose heavy silver later." "Heavy silver? Are you trying to harm me on purpose?" Although heavy silver was a decent metal, it ranked in the middle relative to other materials. Since this was a tournament, the more difficult the metal was to forge, the more points would be awarded. Since it was far easier to forge than blue coppertite, heavy silver at the very best could be considered at the peak of mid-grade metals. By choosing it, her chances of success would increase. Yet, this was still depending on chance. Should Mu Shi fail, her score would plummet and she might even be eliminated. Tang Wulin said, "Actually, I'm not completely sure either. But if you believe in me, I'll definitely succeed in making you the champion." Mu Shi stared at him in astonishment. "You really want to help me win?" A smile appeared on Tang Wulin's lips. "I've already broken a record. If I don't get out of the limelight, teacher is going to punish me when I return. Besides, didn't you say you would give me the first place prize? You know how much I love money. If you take first place and I take second, then I'll get both prizes and complete teacher's assignment. It's a win-win." Mu Shi wasn't convinced. "I'm your rival. There's no way I can believe you." HMPH. She hastened her pace. Unseen by Tang Wulin, Mu Shi's expression depicted warring emotions, as turbulent as a monsoon. Ever since she met Tang Wulin, she would always pick on him for some reason. Later, she realized her actions stemmed from jealousy. In the blacksmithing world, Mu Shi was heralded as a proud girl sent from the heavens. That being said, Tang Wulin's appearance threatened her position, forcing her to see him as a rival. In the end, however, she was unable to compete with Tang Wulin. Whenever she drummed up the courage to challenge Tang Wulin to a blacksmithing duel, his astounding progress made her lose her confidence. Yet no matter how bruised her ego became, Mu Shi strived harder and harder, until her past self was incomparable with her present self. Even so, the distance between Mu Shi and Tang Wulin continued to widen. When Tang Wulin was promoted to a fourth-rank blacksmith, she could finally relinquish her jealousy. In this world there were geniuses that an ordinary person like her could never hope to match, regardless of how much effort was invested. She understood this now. With this realization, Mu Shi's heart grew calm and she was able to face their relationship. Mu Chen had urged her repeatedly to maintain a good relationship with Tang Wulin. Now that she let go of her envy, she found that he wasn't as loathsome as she thought. The distance between the two gradually faded away and her attitude toward Tang Wulin gradually improved. However, she did not expect Tang Wulin to return the favor so quickly by helping her win the competition. Unaware of Tang Wulin's two-faced nature, Mu Shi thought the 10-year-old's words were 99% serious. Nevertheless, she was the senior disciple's sister here. Although Tang Wulin wanted to cede first place to her, it was only right that she cede it to him. For this reason, she chose to decline. It was unconscionable to deprive him of his deserved glory. Mind in a haze, she heaved a long sigh after entering the competition grounds. Junior disciple brother, I hope you can reach even greater heights. One day, you'll definitely become an amazing blacksmith like Dad. Senior disciple sister, here? Tang Wulin's voice halted her depressing train of thought. He had appeared in front of her and held out a chunk of heavy silver. You, Mu Shi stared at him, dumbfounded. Tang Wulin said seriously, Senior disciple sister, please believe in me. If you acknowledge me as your junior disciple brother, then trust me. How could Mu Shi not believe in him now? Wulin, I? Tang Wulin stepped forward, hugging her. Senior disciple sister, believe in me. Despite standing half a head shorter than her and holding a piece metal in his hand, Tang Wulin calmed her and blew away her hesitations with his embrace. He released her a moment later, picking up a metal ingot. Meanwhile, Zheng Qianlin was staring at Tang Wulin from the distance. His stupefied expression grew dark. Though not in the same division, they still entered the competition grounds together. That little brat hugged Mu Shi? And she didn't fight back at all? What's their relationship? Jealousy stabbed his heart. Tang Wulin soon returned with a nearly identical piece of heavy silver. He smiled at Mu Shi, showing off his pearly whites, before heading to the forging tables. Mu Shi had no choice but to follow him. Her previous anxiety was now replaced with calm and curiosity. Just what is Tang Wulin up to? Why did he tell me to pick heavy silver? And why did he choose it as well? Tang Wulin placed the heavy silver onto the forging table, before calcining it. This was the required basic preparatory process. Not everyone chose the highest quality metal they could. The higher the metal's grade, the harder it would be to forge, thus awarding more points in its success. This encouraged competitors to balance the metal's difficulty with their proficiency in refining it, therefore, no one thought much of Tang Wulin and Mu Shi picking heavy silver. Mu Shi echoed Tang Wulin's actions and began calcining the heavy silver. A moment later, she whispered to Tang Wulin, so just what's your plan, Wulin? Tang Wulin's whispered response could barely be heard. Senior disciple sister, when the competition begins, just follow my rhythm. We'll forge together. Heavy silver is the steadiest and sturdiest of the mid-grade metals. We'll forge in sync and you can just follow along, understanding it as you go. As long as you follow my rhythm, there shouldn't be any problems. Mu Shi didn't understand completely. What does he mean by follow him? The second round of the Sky Sea Alliance Tournament's blacksmiths competition is about to begin. Please finish your preparations, competitors. Only 30% of the initial participants remain. I hope you all treasured this opportunity and display all of your forging ability, the official in charge of the competition declared. Passing the first round would guarantee entrance to the second and third rounds. The final rankings would be decided by the sum of those scores. With rapt attention, the participants stared at their forging table. The foundation of every blacksmith's skills was an unrelenting focus. Those who had passed the first round demonstrated a satisfactory level of this. Tang Wulin was no exception. His concentration could not be broken and he forged as if he were in his own world. As Mu Shi watched him, she felt that Tang Wulin's breathing and mental state existed in its own rhythm, like the personal beat of one's heart. It was as if his entire being melded with the forging table, blurring the lines between the two. Sure enough, there's no way someone father recognizes as a genius is an ordinary person. Mu Shi exclaimed in her thoughts. She could feel Tang Wulin's sheer talent for forging, crashing into her like a tidal wave. The source of his talent wasn't something as simple as possessing innate divine strength. 10, 9, 8. The countdown began. 3, 2, 1, begin. In one full sweep, blazing scarlet chunks of metal rose to the surface of all of the blacksmith's forging tables, signaling the start of the second round. Atop the stage, numerous officials swept their gaze over the myriad of tables. At the same time, the white-haired old man at the center singled out Tang Wulin from the crowd. "Is that the brat from yesterday?" The old man pointed at Tang Wulin. "Yes. The result of our investigations verified that he came from East Sea City's Blacksmiths Association. The girl next to him is Mu Chen's daughter, who is praised as one of this generation's greatest blacksmiths. Who would have thought that they've raised an even greater and younger genius? It seems the East Sea Blacksmiths Association has truly been fortunate these last few years." A middle-aged man exclaimed beside the old man. The white-haired old man nodded. "I want to see if this brat can surprise us again today. Investigate deeper into him. Determine his family's circumstances and his background. Elder Duan, what are your intentions?" the middle-aged man asked in surprise. The old man smiled slyly. "Although a fair share of geniuses has come from our Sky Sea Blacksmiths Association, they can't compare with those from East Sea. It's important to constantly think of ways to improve our situation, since the younger the blacksmith, the less polished they are. This could also be an opportunity for us." "I understand. I'll arrange it right now." The middle-aged man finally grasped the old man's plan. He quickly made some calls with his soul communicator. Unaware of these events, Tang Wulin began forging. A flash of light later, his forging hammers were in his hands. However, instead of his heavy silver hammers, they were tungsten. He gently tapped the heavy silver, and a crisp note rang out. Paying attention to his actions, Mu Shi copied him. With her own 1,000 refined hammers, Mu Shi's tap issued a second, successive note. Tang Wulin wrinkled his brows. He turned to Mu Shi and gave her a curt nod. Although Mu Shi had yet to understand Tang Wulin's plan, she was resolute and responded with a firm nod. Regardless of what Tang Wulin planned to do, she chose to believe in him and do as he said. If she could see what surprise Tang Wulin had up his sleeve, then so what if it ended in failure? They were still young and had plenty of opportunities waiting for them in the future. Ding! Tang Wulin's hammer descended. Mu Shi mirrored him. She felt the delay between their movements disappearing. Furthermore, Tang Wulin's strike seemed heavier than usual, almost as if they were her own. Moving in sync, Tang Wulin and Mu Shi raised their other hammer and smashed the metal. The surrounding blacksmiths had also begun to forge. Many had been caught up in the tempest of Tang Wulin's forging rhythm the day before, but today they had learned their lesson and threw themselves into the process as soon as possible. With each resounding boom of Tang Wulin's tungsten hammer, another soon followed. Although Tang Wulin had slowed his pace, it still possessed a peculiar tempo to it. Their hammers raised and fell together as they forged in unison, gradually increasing in speed and similarity. As Tang Wulin's hammers began to practically fly through the air, so too did Mu Shi's. Feeling. Rhythm. These two words lingered in the back of Mu Shi's mind. She had forged heavy silver countless times before, yet, this time, it was an entirely different sensation. As Mu Shi forged with Tang Wulin, she discovered that she could sense the heavy silver's breath clearer than usual, following her rhythm and cadence. As a genius in her own right, she soon immersed herself in this feeling. A smile peeked out as Tang Wulin observed her changes. Senior disciple sister really is senior disciple sister. If she puts her mind to it, then she can really do it. Few paid attention to them in the beginning due to their slow pace, but as the two sped up, a forging tempest like the day before appeared. Tang Wulin's hammers struck faster, spurring on Mu Shi to do the same. Their hammers rained down on the metal like a whirlwind, each strike resounding. The most unusual thing was that the two reflected each other perfectly, even the location of their strikes and pull of the hammer were identical. Under their assault, the heavy silver slowly shrunk and transformed. The blacksmiths on stage soon noticed this bizarre situation, giving them no small shock. What are these two kids doing? Why are their forging rhythms identical? This was the first time they had ever seen anything like this. Now that Mushi was completely immersed in the process of forging, she could clearly hear the heavy silver's voice as it cheered with each strike on its body. She no longer needed to follow Tang Wulin's rhythm, using her own senses to continue. This was her first time experiencing such a mystical sensation. Her mind void of any distracting thoughts, she focused all her attention on forging. Hammer after hammer descended, gradually shaping the heavy silver. Joyful rings sounded out in response to being purified. Beautiful cloud patterns emerged onto the twinkling surface of the heavy silver. Beads of sweat rolled down Mushi's forehead. Although her soul power exceeded Tang Wulin's by far, she couldn't compare with his physical strength. Even after Tang Wulin lowered his strength to match Mushi's usual output, their pace was exhausting her. Only by concentrating her soul power into her arms did she just barely manage to continue this fast-paced forging. Mushi's years of blacksmithing came together, culminating into a sensation that made her want to sing as she was held spellbound by this feeling. Yes. It's like this. Exactly like this. This thought echoed within her heart. Bang! The two's final strike landed simultaneously. Two beams of light shot into the air from the heavy silver. Though the light lasted no more than an instant, it had clearly been seen by everyone on the stage. What? A light came out? The old man unconsciously shouted. Without a single exception, all the blacksmiths from the Sky Sea Alliance gawked at the duo. Sentayu was also on the stage, but on the other end. He had been paying attention to the two since the start of the competition. Even with his prior understanding of the two, he was flabbergasted by their synchronized rhythms. What are those two brats doing? Why isn't Tang Wulin using his heavy silver hammers? Just what is he doing? However, all of his doubts were blown away when he saw the beam of light. Sentayu was aware of Tang Wulin's ability to thousand refined second-grade metals, but unexpectedly Mushi had accomplished it too. It was simply unfathomable. Mushi wasn't even a third-rank blacksmith yet, and her thousand refinements was still unstable. Even if it was the dimmest of lights that came from 1,000 refined metal, it still signified that from that moment on, Mushi was a third-rank blacksmith. Reaching third rank at the young age of 14 was no small matter. Not a single third-rank blacksmith existed within the junior division. Tang Wulin was fourth rank, so he didn't count. The old man roused from his stupor by the sound of a gulp. He strode forward and leapt down from the stage with nimble movements unlike that of an elderly man. He no longer cared that the competition was still in progress, directly charging in Tang Wulin's and Mushi's direction. A light blue halo glimmered around the silver metal as Tang Wulin put away his tungsten hammers. The pattern spread evenly across the heavy silver's surface, covering every single inch. He narrowed his eyes as he reflected on the process. Mushi propped herself up against the forging table with her arms. That feeling just now? That feeling. Her eyes twinkled like stars as she kept recreating that feeling in her mind. She knew she had reached the next rank. It had been the first time she could perceive the will of the metal. As she carved this experience into her heart, she had a newfound appreciation for everything that came before. Don't go over. Just as the old man was about to reach the two, Sentayu stopped him. They are comprehending things right now. We mustn't disturb them, Sentayu said with a lowered voice. The old man, as well as the other blacksmiths that had followed, all halted in place. As they were all of at least the 5th rank, they understood how important times of comprehension were to blacksmiths. From where they were standing, they could clearly see the 2 chunks of 1,000 refined heavy silver on the table. That's definitely 1,000 refined heavy silver. And it's second grade. Second grade 1,000 refined heavy silver was usually in the domain of 4th rank blacksmiths, yet 2 kids who had succeeded in forging it now stood in front of him. Tang Wulin's and Mushi's state of comprehension was short-lived, but it told the elder Duan everything he needed to know. Both youngsters were at least 3rd rank. The old man turned to Sentayu. Little you, your East Sea Blacksmiths Association sure has some tricks up its sleeve. Mu Chen is truly formidable. I never expected that he would have groomed 2 young successors, especially that brat over there. I looked into him and discovered he's only 10 years old. Just where did you find such a freak? Senta Yu delighted in the old man's bitter expression. Elder Duan, you don't have to be so worried. We were just lucky. You should know that Mushi has shown promise since she was a child, but Wu Lin is our president's only direct disciple. He's quite talented. Maybe he could exchange notes with blacksmiths from Sky Sea City in the future. Senta Yu's reply was truly a needle hidden in silk floss. He flawlessly explained Tang Wulin's status as Mu Chen's direct disciple, secretly warning Elder Duan to discard any ideas of preying on him. Each blacksmith had their own blacksmithing techniques and ways to pass down their teachings. Just like how a good master was hard to find, a good disciple was also hard to find. What master wouldn't want a disciple that could one day surpass them? Forging a second-grade 1000 refined metal wasn't much in their eyes. What was significant, however, was how young Tang Wulin was. He was only 10 years old. In the entire history of blacksmithing, a 10-year-old who could 1000 refine was unheard of. This was simply... Elder Duan felt short of breath as he stared at Senta Yu. Why hasn't anyone told me that Mu Chen took in a disciple? Have any of you heard about this? He swept his gaze across the other blacksmiths present. I haven't heard about this, each of the blacksmiths from Sky Sea City said one after another, shaking their heads. Senta Yu's expression darkened. Elder Duan, what are you implying? Elder Duan snorted. Nothing. Let's just head back then. We don't want to influence the children's competition. He glanced at Tang Wulin one more time before leading the others back to the stage. Just after they left, Tang Wulin raised his head. His state of comprehension hadn't been as great as Mushi's since he was forging the familiar heavy silver, but he did manage to grasp the barest traces of what a first-grade 1000 refining was like. The fact that Tang Wulin had used his tungsten hammers needed to be kept in mind. He wondered just what the result would have been if he used his heavy silver hammers. If he had used them, he probably would have had at least a 60% chance to produce a first-grade metal. A first-grade 1000 refinement was also called half-spirit refinement. The sooner that Tang Wulin could achieve this, the easier it would be for him to comprehend spirit refinement. The only thing he currently lacked was soul power. Even with his innate divine strength, Mu Chen was confident in his assessment that Tang Wulin would need to have at least 3 rings before spirit refinement would be possible. This was because, during the process of spirit refining, blacksmiths needed to infuse the metal with the vitality that came from the blacksmith themselves. In other words, the gap between the blacksmith's martial soul and the metal. An ordinary blacksmith needed to have at least 4 rings before being able to spirit refine, but with his innate divine strength, Tang Wulin only needed 3 rings to sustain the process. Nonetheless, a first-grade 1000 refinement could be considered the gateway to spirit refinement. The greater the feeling and the deeper his comprehension, the closer he got to the realm of spirit refinement. Tang Wulin had set a goal for himself prior to the start of the tournament. Before reaching 3 rings, he would 1000 refine every metal he could get his hands on to the standard of first grade. This way, when the time for him to attempt spirit refinement arrived, his chances of success would dramatically increase while lowering his material costs. Mushi let out a long sigh as she lifted her head, sluggishly gazing at the twinkling silver metal before her. The moment she laid eyes on the heavy silver, she was dazed. It's 1000 refined second grade. Although she couldn't compare to Grandmaster blacksmiths, her understanding of high-level forging was still extraordinarily deep since she grew up as the daughter of a saint blacksmith. She was naturally able to identify the level of the metal she had just forged. Is it actually second grade? She hadn't even grasped the fundamentals of the 1000 refinements, yet she had somehow managed to forge a second-grade metal? Mushi simply couldn't believe it. Furthermore, she just comprehended the true essence of the 1000 refinements and was now confident in her ability to 1000 refine any metal. Taking this into consideration, she knew that she was now a third-rank blacksmith. She turned to Tang Wulin, her eyes welling with all sorts of emotions, relief, admiration, envy, and another emotion she didn't understand. A teacher guides the way, dispelling the disciples' doubts. That was exactly what it felt like with Tang Wulin leading her. He was the one who elevated her to the 3rd rank, something not even her father had been able to accomplish. Using his own rhythm to spur her on, Tang Wulin pushed her into that state of complete focus and revealed the path to the 1,000 refinements. After putting away her hammers, Mu Shi walked over to Tang Wulin's side. She reached out to rub his head and pinch his cheeks, not expressing her gratitude. "Let's go," she said, leading the way out. A smile tugged at Tang Wulin's lips as he watched Mu Shi leave gallantly. At that moment, the two understood each other even without giving voice to their thoughts. Mu Shi stopped once they left the blacksmithing competition grounds. "Are you participating in the individual competition?" Tang Wulin nodded. "Senior disciple sister, why aren't you participating? You're definitely strong enough to place highly." Mu Shi currently has 3 rings, and from Tang Wulin's understanding, her martial soul was a powerful one. "I can't," she replied and shook her head. "My talent for blacksmithing can't compare with yours, and I've had a change of heart since you arrived. I've been contemplating whether my path is that of a blacksmith, a soul master, or a battle armor master. I want to embrace all 3 of these identities, but I am ultimately destined to be a blacksmith. In light of that, I've decided to focus my time and energy on forging." Mu Shi paused for a moment to give Tang Wulin a profound look. "Wulin, you are far more talented than I am, so much so that you're a once-in-a-century blacksmithing genius. Dad told me that, if you continue to steadily develop like this, you would one day become a divine blacksmith. So if you enjoy forging, you need to put even more effort into it from now on." Tang Wulin nodded slightly, understanding Mu Shi's intentions. She wished to remind him that, if he wanted to be a blacksmith that stood at the peak, he could not let himself get unnecessarily distracted. However, his goal was to become a battle armor master. That was his dream. Tang Wulin dreamed of becoming a mecha pilot when he was a child, but after Wu Zhongkong educated him about battle armor masters who stood above mecha pilots, his dream changed. Blacksmithing had initially been a way for him to earn money that he just so happened to enjoy, but now it fueled his hope of one day becoming a battle armor master. "Senior disciple sister? I love blacksmithing, but my circumstances are different from yours. Your martial soul is way better than mine. I only have blue-silver grass. People have been telling me that my martial soul is trash since I was 6. Even though I've devoted all of my energy into steadily cultivating, the results have been lackluster. Becoming a great blacksmith also requires soul power, so if I want to do that, I have to put in the effort cultivating. Aside from that, my one true dream is to become a battle armor master." This video will end here.